101. صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إن الذين سبقت لهم منا الحسنى أولئك عنها مبعدون. لا يسمعون حسيسها وهم فيما اشتهت أنفسهم خالدون. لا يحزنهم الفزع الأكبر وتتلقاهم الملائكة هذا يومكم وتتلقاهم الملائكة هذا يومكم الذي كنتم توعدون. يوم نطوي السماء كطي السجل للكتب يوم نطوي السماء كطي السجل للكتب كما بدأنا أول خلق نعيده وعدا علينا إنا كنا فاعلين. ولقد كتبنا في الزبور من بعد الذكر أن الأرض يرثها عبادي الصالحون. إن في هذا لبلاغا لقوم عابدين. وما أرسلناك إلا رحمة للعالمين. قل إنما يوحى إلي أنما إلهكم إله واحد فهل أنتم مسلمون؟ فهل أنتم مسلمون؟ فإن تولوا فقل آذنتكم على سواء وإن أدري أقريب أم بعيد ما توعدون إنه يعلم الجهر من القول ويعلم ما تكتمون وإن أدري لعله فتنة لكم ومتاع إلى حين قال رب احكم بالحق قال رب احكم بالحق وربنا الرحمن المستعان على ما تصفون صدق الله العلي العظيم. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم، والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا ونبينا محمد وآله الطاهرين. My dear brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. It's great to see everyone. Inshallah, everybody is doing great. I just have a couple of very quick announcements. One is about this organization, a student organization called Abbas. Anybody has heard of them? Maybe? Yes? No? So, Abbas Network is an organization dedicated to serving Ahlul Bayt student association organizations on North American university campuses. They are going to have their first ever Abbas Leadership Summit in San Jose, California, where they want to have student leaders from across the country and North American campuses to come together and discuss how they can better serve their communities on their campuses. They want to learn how to exemplify the traditions of Prophet Muhammad and his household through the advocacy and events, while also encouraging career developments and Muslim students for Muslim students on different campuses. So they have like a fundraising campaign. I don't know if Agha has the link, so you can go to that givebutter.com. Is that where it is, Agha Shahrukh? and look for their campaign. I'll look and see if there's more information or a shorter link we can share with you all. But if you look it up, maybe ABSA, Ahlul Bayt Student Association, I think they just have $5,000 goal for this fundraising, so it's not much. They've already raised, I think, $1,000 or something. So make sure to support them, inshallah. It's just we had some of them actually on campuses in Southern California, at USC, at UCLA, and they're serving multiple different campuses from across the country. So it would be great if you could support them, inshallah. This week we don't have a kids program, but inshallah we're going to resume it starting next week. So we're going to have a kids program here every week for those of you who have kids. It's a great initiative, but by some of the sisters under the leadership of Hujjatul Islam wal Muslimin Razavian. So if you have any feedback, if you want to contribute, if you want to volunteer, you can talk to Sister Noor, who's sitting right there at the corner. Again, it's a great program. They're doing a great job. We had a lot of good feedback from the parents who sent their students to the program. Again, it's a great opportunity for those of you who have kids to take advantage of this. May Allah bless all of the sisters and brothers who are helping out, especially the sisters who are involved in the kids program, for the health and well-being of all of these sisters and their families. Please recite aloud, Salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. My last announcement, I promise. If you have any religious questions, or if you need some sort of consultation about some religious affairs you're dealing with, or anything else, and you want to have a one-on-one session with our scholar, alhamdulillah, we have this opportunity here. We have the Alim office hours. So you will see it in the emails. We had it in the emails in the past weeks. We just didn't have it this last week. But check it out. You can schedule a one-on-one time with Sayyid Razavian. You can do it over Zoom, or schedule a time to meet with him even in person. He's here every Thursday before the prayers. He's here every Friday for Friday prayers. And he's here every Saturday for our main weekly program. So you can book a time with him. He's here every Saturday pretty much as well. So make sure you take advantage of his presence in our center, inshallah. Without any further delay, let's welcome our respected scholar, Hujjatul Islam wal Muslimin, Sayyid Abbas Razavian, with your loud salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا ومولانا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين ولعنة الله على أعدائهم إلى يوم الدين. Assalamu alayka ya Sayyidi wa Mawlaya ya Aba Abdullah al-Hussein. May peace and blessings be upon the Holy Prophet Muhammad and his immaculate family. And we said a salam to our Imam Hussein alayhi salam, that during this time period, the Battle of Karbala, a battle where the camp of Imam Hussein, the army of Imam Hussein, was about 72 people versus 30,000. And sometimes we cannot believe how after the Prophet of Islam passes away, that Muslims would come to be at war with the grandson of the Holy Prophet of Islam, to behead him, to deprive him of water, to take his family members as captives. People that were present, some of them, when they heard that Imam Hassan and Imam Hussein, the grandsons of the Prophet, from Shia and Sunni Hadith, that they are Sayyida Shabab al-Ahl al-Jannah, they are the best of the youth of paradise. How can this happen? But we know this, that when the grandson of the Prophet of Islam went to battle, went to Karbala, they attacked him, we know that his companions were very loyal. And we ourselves, when we see numbers, we get afraid. If they say right now, fight with one person, fight with 2 people, fight with 5 people, I would be worried, 5 against 1. But now imagine 72 versus 30,000. Imam Hussein, he turns off the light and says, my allegiance is done. You all can leave. They want me. You all can leave. But these companions and followers of Hussein ibn Ali, they stayed. Why? One of the things we learn from Ashura, the battle of Karbala, is that they were fearless. One of the distinct qualities of the companions of Imam Hussein was they were fearless. Why? Because Imam Hussein alayhi salam was fearless. Because Islam teaches us to only fear God, to put away with other types of fears. Can you believe that today in this country, 52, and according to some studies, 52% of Americans say that in every day they feel that their life is in danger, that they are in danger. Majority, you can say, around almost half of Americans feel every day that they're in danger. So is fear something good for us to have? That constantly, different fears, either it's because of health, either it's because losing a loved one, either it's because of financial reasons, of poverty, and we have in the Quran that shaitan promises us or tempts us with poverty, that you're going to go broke, it scares us. Or for other reasons, we are afraid. Is fear good in Islam? And if it's bad, which it is, we'll mention the good type of fear, the bad type of fear, how can we manage fear? How can we control it? Many of us are suffering from fear or anxiety, but there are solutions to it. When you look at what most people are afraid of, there's a few studies done, and the list changes. Some say, what the most recent that I have from 2020, 2021, the number one fear of Americans in terms of percentage is corrupt government officials. That was the number one fear. 2 is people I love dying. They're afraid that someone that they love dies. It's a fear that, people have. 3 is a loved one getting COVID-19. Maybe, I think now in 2022, it's much less. People are less afraid of COVID-19. And some people even are trying to get it, contract it. They lost the fear so much, they're not even afraid to get it anymore. People I love become seriously ill. Widespread civil unrest. Economic financial collapse. Cyber terrorism. Pollution of oceans, rivers, lakes. That, unfortunately, tonight we're not going to be able to talk about, but please save the oceans and rivers and lakes. And biological warfare. So you see that every time that someone steps out of their house, they're afraid. But we learn from the companions of Imam Hussein, actually we learn from the Quran that one of the trials that God gives us is from khawf, from fear. God tries us with fear. وَنَقْصًا مِنَ الْأَمْوَالِ, and financial loss, and death, and war, and battle. You see, during the Prophet's time, they were tested. And the same way we say that Imam Hussein was left alone, the Prophet of Islam in the Battle of Badr was outnumbered. They had 313, And the army of the polytheists in the first battle was 1,000. 3 times, besides being equipped and who they were, but they were outnumbered. But they didn't fear. Another thing that we need to address tonight is that should we breed fear? Should we cause our children to fear? Should we cause our family to fear? Or should we give them security? Is fear something that is bad and we should try to eradicate? And sometimes, if to approach others to seek help, let's look at some of the traditions that we have about fear. If you give me a salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad wa ajma'in. The governor of Mecca, in a reply, Imam Hussein alayhi salam gives his reply to the governor of Mecca that wanted to give Hussein ibn Ali protection. And his family member Abdullah ibn Ja'far tried hard, because he was an influential person, to get protection from Hussein ibn Ali. But he mentions very bravely, وَقَدْ دَعَوْتَ إِلَى الْأَمَانِ وَالْبِرِّ وَالصِّلَةِ, that you have called to protection and good and connection. فَخَيْرُ الْأَمَانِ أَمَانُ اللَّهِ, but the best protection is the protection of God. Therefore, we see that Imam Hussein alayhi salam in this letter, and we're trying to become like the companions of Imam Hussein, trying to become like Imam Hussein, he's telling us that our reliance and trust should be on God. And that, in another way, fear, true fear, should be from God, that we should fear God. And that we shouldn't fear the creation, because it all is in His hands. If a person, I believe, is afraid all the time, that means they have not truly understood God. How can you be in fear when you believe that you in a God that is engaged in controlling the universe all the time? Even if we have fear, I might have it myself, but some of the things that I tell myself, for example, when you want to swim and they tell you there's sharks, it's a fear. You can, the imagination can keep scaring you and scaring you, but you say, look, even the shark with the sharp teeth, and especially if you watch the movie Jaws before it and you get scared, even the shark is commanded by God. He will not be able to do damage to me unless God wills. Is this shark outside the realm of God's kingdom, or is he part of God's kingdom? It's part of God's kingdom. So therefore, if he bites me, there's a purpose. Maybe, there's a tradition that actually one of the companions of, they come and they say that a scorpion has bit them. And he's wondering, why did the scorpion bite me? And the answer was that you were in a majlis, you were in a gathering where they did backbiting of Salman, for example, a good person. And you didn't defend him, they were backbiting him. This recompense, this scorpion hit you, bit you, or stung you because of this sin. And Allah wanted you to be cleaned in this world before going to the next world. So even that bite of a shark or that bite of a scorpion is something good, because you have a God that's engaged, a God that is kind, and a God that is merciful. So He only wants good for you. So therefore, why are we afraid? So if we take these attributes of God and we separate it from us and we're disconnected with these attributes, then what will happen is that you can have fear. But the awliya of God, la khawfun alayhim, they don't have fear. A true wali, someone that's close to God, a true friend of God, they do not have fear. So therefore, at the same time, we are trying to develop in ourselves an ability not to fear so much. Believe me, brothers and sisters, what holds us back many times in this world, even in success in this world, is fear. For example, I have a business. I need to find customers. I need to give a presentation. I like that confidence. I have fear that what's going to happen. So I'm shaky, I'm nervous. I don't do it. I don't make that sales call. I don't make that phone call. I don't see that person. that causes me not to be successful in this world. Or the same way, anything else, a new sport, for example, you want to learn something new. And it's actually a nice sport. I'm not talking about, jumping off cliffs and stuff like that. No, with parachutes. No, something like a new sport. But if you're afraid all the time and you allow your imagination to take care of you, to take control of you, then you'll never learn that new sport. Or you want to learn a new language, and you're afraid that I'll make mistakes, and I'm afraid they're going to make fun of me. You'll never learn to speak that new language. So if we really think about it, how it's said, Islam develops and enhances our day-to-day lives. Islam is not only for heaven and hell. Yes, that is the most important part. But this beautiful religion has instructions for us for this world and the hereafter. It develops someone like the Prophet of Islam and someone like his noble family, like Imam Ali, Sayfullah, we say the sword of God. Now I'll tell you something interesting. When the verses of Bara'ah, where Imam Ali was going to teach these verses of the Quran, and he came south to teach these. At that time was where Ali ibn Abi Talib, the cousin of the Holy Prophet, we believe the first Imam. That was a time because he was in battle so much that they said at that time when he went to spread this verse, there was not a family that Ali ibn Abi Talib had not killed one member of that family. Everyone that he went to give this verse to and teach was someone that Ali alayhi salam had killed, at least one person in their family. And he came without a weapon, Ali ibn Abi Talib. He came without a weapon and said, I'm going to teach this verse. Can you show me other examples like this? How Ali ibn Abi Talib or the Prophet or his companions that didn't have any fear? So therefore, we see that if you have that ability, and we're going to talk about it, to progress and conquer your fears, you will excel in this world. One of the other things that people are afraid of a lot of times, the youth, is public speaking. I myself was very nervous, when I wanted to start the public speaking. A lot of people, because I was in the seminary and it was not very natural for me. I was away from the US for a long time. Public speaking was scary. And actually, if you ask people what is one of the fears they have, maybe even more than scorpions and snakes, is public speaking. They'll see a snake, they can even handle it, touch it, but if you tell them, give a speech presentation, they want to grab on, to the earth or to the minbar, and just tell me when it's over, for example. But through practice, at the beginning, yes, you're nervous, but you do it again. You do it again. You do it again. You get more comfortable until finally it feels like as if when you're not on the chair, it feels awkward, for example. You're not on the minbar, it feels awkward. So this has to do with being able to, we'll mention this, being able to confront your fears. Imam Ali mentions it very beautifully, Ali ibn Abi Talib, when you have a fear, face it. I know people that they were afraid of animals, for example. When they would see an animal, sometimes they would have a panic attack and faint. People, especially some that come from the country of Iran, they're not used to, say, dogs everywhere. So they would see these security guards or guards, they would faint. But after getting consultation, and slowly, in the proper way, not to like some people, they think, oh, you're afraid of them, just throw them, in front of the dogs and get scared. No, in a way that, professional way, they introduce them to animals, and now they're not 100% okay, but they can be in the same room with another animal, for example. So therefore, we should practice and teach. Sometimes, unfortunately, we have this vice in us that we like to scare people. We like that. We like, as I mentioned before, we like scary movies and culture. We like people to be afraid. And you like to breed fear. Oh, what if this happens? Oh, what is that going to happen? But this is not the way of Islam, brothers and sisters. This is known as a vice, to fear others, but not fear God. God mentions this in the Quran, that it's like they're afraid of people. Fariqun, when called to battle, Fariqun minhum يَخْشَوْنَ النَّاسَ كَخَشْيَةِ اللَّهِ. Some of them, they fear people as much as they fear God. As if they are God. Then the Quran says, وَأَشَدَّ خَشْيَةً, even more than God. That is the problem that we have. We do not fear God. We fear people. We fear animals. We fear, as we said, 52% of Americans feel they're in danger. But why do you feel you're in danger when you have God? Is He not sufficient for you? Do you need another God that is more powerful? Do you need another God that sees you more, has more knowledge? Is God not complete? So therefore we understand that those that are true friends of God, they don't have fear whatsoever. So in this letter, Imam Hussein alayhi salam mentions that the best aman is the aman of Allah. You see, in the Quran, to answer fear of death, we can't answer all of these. But the interesting thing is when you look at verses in the Quran, does God attribute death to ourselves or to Him? When you read verses of the Quran, does He attribute who's in control of death, taking our souls away? God. God. I'm not saying that you can be unhealthy, don't exercise. I'm not saying that, because all that leads up to final that time that your ajal and your death is appointed. You know, being careless or fool. I'm not saying to from now on not to care. But when you look at verses of the Quran, death is in God's hands. أَيْنَمَا تَكُونُوا يُدْرِككُمْ الْمَوْتِ. Wherever you are, death will overtake you, wherever you are. It's not in our hands. If you are worried about it, you're not going to really do anything about it because it's in God's hands. When something is in God's hands and you trust in God, it causes you not to have fear anymore. Especially a God that loves you more than a mother. How come when it comes to poverty, for example, we're so worried? Do you ever notice children? Let me ask you this. Children, are they afraid of tomorrow's? Are they worried about tomorrow's food? They might ask what it is for taste. But in general, kids are not worried. Am I going to eat tomorrow or not? Are they worried about that? No. So what happens to them? They don't have that stress. Now imagine us, if kids had that stress, if God put that in them, that I'm afraid of, am I going to eat tomorrow or not? I'm afraid if we're going to pay rent or not. I'm afraid of this mortgage or not. What would happen to that kid? He would be devastated. Right? That anxiety would kill that. We are in the same way. That kid is trusting their mother or their father, so that's it. They're going to take care of me. Can't we have at least that type of belief in God? That He will take care of me? Why not? Yeah. The nature, it's different. We need to work on it. That's what we're talking about. We need to work on it. It's step by step. Yes, we don't expect from tonight everyone leaves as like Malika Ashtar. No, we don't expect that. Actually, we can maybe test each other and see who's most scared. I'll probably be the most scared. And from everyone outside you walk, you can test me. But we're something that each person, naturally, some people are more afraid than others. Either through the way they're raised or how they are, the personality. That isn't important. What is important is how much are you working on this? How much progress have you made? Do not be afraid of things. Some people are just careless, fearless, and naturally. But what we're trying to focus on is religiously trying to solve this problem with religious guidance. So yes, the Quran, death is in the hands of God. In the Quran, poverty, rizq, Wallahu yarzuqu man yasha bighayri hisab. God will give His provision to whom He wills without account. Right now, when we talk about provision, most people right now, at least in this country, are not being harmed from not having enough to eat. Usually it's from overeating. That's what's killing us right now in many countries. It's not from not being able to eat, it's from overeating. Or we look at traditions, how خاف Allah Azza wa Jal, أخاف Allah minhu kull shay. And this is the maximum level. This is what we can reach. Whoever is afraid of God, God makes everything afraid of Him. Whoever is afraid of God. If you fear God, then God has everything fear you. Everything fear you. There's a beautiful story of Ayatollah Muhammad Taqi Khansari. He lived during the British invasion of Iraq. He was a jurist, and actually one of the jurists that picked up weapons and went to jihad because they wanted to protect their country, their place, from a foreign invasion. He was captured, actually. Imagine a scholar at his level. He's a beautiful scholar. I mentioned 2 stories about him tonight because we mentioned his name. He's buried in the shrine of Lady Ma'sum al-Qum. They say that when he was captured, they put animals, they asked him to translate books, work for them, and to translate books. And he said, no, these books I don't want to translate. They're books of misguidance. I don't want to do. So to scare him, they put dogs in his cell. And that's something very scary, because imagine if a dog didn't eat, it can attack you in your cell. It says the dogs, instead of him being afraid of these dogs, the dogs looked at him and ran away. They were afraid of him because he was afraid of God. In the same way, his sincerity, they asked him, Ayatollah Muhammad Taqi Khansari, they asked him to do Salat al-Istighatha, Istiqsa, Salat al-Istiqsa, the rain Salat. There's a Salat that we do. Both Sunni and Shia have this. I believe the traditions are in Bukhari that there's a Salat you do that it causes rain for drought. It's a prayer you do. And he did this Salat. They asked him to do this Salat. And the entire city of Qom, rain came. So much this, they say this was recorded back then in BBC. And that they came to him and asked him, pray for world peace, that your prayer for rain caused a flood. And the river went all the way up, the river of Qom. And they asked him, how did such a salat? He said, actually, I thought that my nafs and my lower desires, my ego was bothering me. So I wanted to go and pray in front of everyone and for it not to rain, because I believed it wasn't going to rain when I did this prayer. I wanted to crush my ego. So that in front of everybody, first, let's say, like in front of everyone, with that intention to ruin myself in front of everyone, that I'm nobody. I did that jihad and nafs, and actually the opposite happened. And God brought the rain. So when a person is sincere, a person is like this, he doesn't have fear whatsoever. Let's read another salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad wa ajma'in. Are we allowed to cause fear to others? Are we allowed others to be scared of us? We're not allowed. We're not allowed to scare others. We're not allowed to cause that. When you look at the Imams, Imam Sajjad, the 4th Imam, mentioning that he called his servant a few times, and his servant doesn't answer him. He calls him, and then he doesn't answer him. And then Anna Ali ibn al-Hussein da'a mamluka, his servant, marratain. And he didn't answer. And then he mentions to him that the 3rd time, فَقَالَ لَهُ يَا بُنَيَّ أَمَا سَمِعْتَ صَوْتِي, didn't you hear my voice? قَالَ بَلَى فَمَا بَالَكْ لَمْ تُحِبْنِي فَقَالَ أَمَتِكْ قَالَ الْحَمْدُ لِلَّهِ الَّذِي جَعَلَ مَمْلُوكِي يَأْمَنِّي. He called him a few times and his servant didn't answer him. Then Imam Sajjad says, Alhamdulillah that my servant is not afraid of me. Alhamdulillah that my servant feels secure with me. He was so happy, because we're not allowed, even if someone works for us, in a way that you just cause them fear all the time. That Imam Sajjad had his servant, the 4th Imam, in a way that he called him, he didn't answer, called him, and he was happy that he's not afraid of me. So yes, we're not allowed to have others be afraid of us. But what can we do to give a solution to fear? What can we do that we are less afraid? One, we said that fear, we have to acknowledge that fear. Fear is a vice. What am I afraid of? List it, mention it. And that's the first step. And so this is something bad. This is an ill trait that I have. I shouldn't be afraid. That's the first step. The second step, and this is part of it, then study that thing that you're afraid of. A lot of times that fear comes from not having enough knowledge of it. Not knowing the behavior. If it's an animal, for example, study its behavior. Many people, say that shark example, were afraid because of films, horror movies made. But then when you actually look at divers and professional people that they know how to treat these sharks, these animals, they actually say they're very friendly. I still don't recommend to go, diving with these sharks. But still, they say at least look at those videos, they're very friendly. They pet them on the nose. They take hooks out of their mouth, and they come back and visit them. And you say, well, that scary shark is actually something that it wants to be cuddled, is like almost like a puppy. Just make sure you give them enough fish, before you want to pet them or whatever. But it's not as scary as you think. That it's not as if there is sharra mutlaq, 100% evil in this universe. That a lot of these animals, first of all, it is their territory. Second of all, it is a defense. Many of them run away from you before. A lot of times, say snakes, if you're hiking, a lot of times you don't see them because they're already hiding from you. They're more scared of you than you are of them. So understand their behavior. Even spiders, black widows. I saw, one of these videos of this person that was actually trying to get bit on purpose by black widow spider. And it's one of the most poisonous, spiders we have in North America. And whatever he did, the spider wouldn't bite him until he forced his, him like this, and finally it bit him. And actually, he got really sick after that. But the point of the story is it didn't even want to bite him. They were shy. So study these creatures. If it's about, people you're afraid of, start, as Imam Ali said, get more engaged. Sometimes I'm afraid to ask a question. Just force yourself maybe one question. The rest, you see, follows, and you keep practicing and practicing. But if you allow that fear just to remain in you, then you'll always be afraid. The other thing is controlling our imagination. A lot of this has to do with the power of the imagination. Many of us don't try to control our thoughts. We control our actions. We don't control our thoughts. How to remember God, how to focus, how to not imagine things. If that time is something scary, put your imagination in the same way that it is, I am with that, say, creature or something that I'm afraid of, and everything is okay. I think positive with my imagination. If it's about poverty and stuff like that, talk to yourself. Stop using your imagination and saying that, look, I already have this much income. Look, I have the book. Stop putting not unnecessary stress. I see people like this. Unfortunately, the more they're separate from God, the more they're afraid of poverty, afraid of sickness, everything in the news, unfortunately, most of news is negative. They keep listening to this and they think they have no power. Put that imagination away and look at the statistics and see what is the chance of this actually happening to me. It's almost zero. You have a lot of these things, the chance of harm befalling you is equal to winning the lottery, for example, something like that. It's so low. The last we'll talk about is our relationship with God and understanding that we need to be able to have a good relationship with God. We need to be able to remember Him throughout the day, do things for Him, and know that if something happens to me, if I'm doing something that is positive, that will be reward if something happens to me. That I believe that I'm not going to be, it's that view that I had. We said we have to change the way we view things. That I am this world, eventually death will come to me. Eventually this body will decay, my spirit will exist. But I'm here in this world a temporary amount of time. I'm here to serve God. Yes, in this service there might be dangers, but as long as everything I take is service of God, my work, my family, my worship, everything that I do, if I make it for God, then it makes sense. Even if there's something scary, something that might happen to me, but at the end I say, I did it for God, and this happened for Him, and I want to sacrifice myself or my time or whatever I have for Him. So if you make your life in a way that it is godly, you do things, you make your intention, even normal things, for God, then you say, oh, this is for Him, it's okay, He will protect me. Even if something happens to me on the way, it is for Him. But if my intention is not for God, it's just for my desires, yes, I should be afraid of that. Because I'm doing something not for God. I'm doing it for my own desires. We never fear God. The hadith tells us that actually you don't fear the dhulm of God. You don't fear the oppression of God. You actually are fearing in reality, the oppression of yourself. What you have done to yourself. Many times we have to realize that bala that happens to us is just wiping out the sins that we did. And for us it's khair. And it's much better for us to see the recompense of this in this world than to see it in the hereafter, like that story of that scorpion that bit that person. Believe me, brothers, sisters, if you see the reality of the hereafter, you wish that you go to the next world clean. So therefore, take these calamities or these fears, understand that there is wisdom behind it, understand that there's a chance for you, even if something bad happens, for a chance for you to show yourself, show your patience, show how much you love God, and show your resilience. Yes, the believer will be tested, and this is part of the test. We will be tested with things that we don't like, but that is the test in this world. This is a temporary place. This is a bridge for us, a place that we will just pass. So we shouldn't be afraid, because at the end our spirit and soul cannot be damaged. That is damaged through sin. Let us be more afraid of what we will do to ourselves permanently than a few scratches in this world. Shouldn't we be more afraid? For example, let me give you this and we'll end. Sometimes we are so much into the dangers of this world. For example, if you went and passed by a scene where there's a bad accident, you would immediately call 911 and rush, wouldn't you? If you saw someone needed help, immediately. But are we the same way when it comes to the spirit, and you see someone spiritually is injured and harmed? That same urgency do you have to give them a remedy, to help them, help your brother, help your sister, help your child? Do you have that same urgency that actually they're truly destroying themselves in the hereafter? If a person gets injured in this world, it's just in the world. Okay, it's bad, but it's just for this world. But what is more important is that injury to ourselves that will last forever in eternity. That is the dangerous thing. That is what we should be afraid of. Not what can happen to us physically, not that poverty. Some of the awliya of God and walis of God would take some of the things that we're afraid of, and they would truly appreciate it. A person came home. Our teacher, Sheikh Ahmad al-Mushtadi, said this. He came home in complete poverty. It's poverty that we never had. He said, wife, bring me food. And he didn't have any food to give. He says, wife, at least turn on the light. Put some oil, turn on the light. He says, we don't have any oil either. And then he did prostration to God. To the morning, he says, God, thank you so much for these 2 ni'mas that you gave me. We think it's a calamity. He thinks it's a blessing. He says, you didn't give me food. You didn't give me oil, light. Why? Because you're testing me with poverty. You're testing me with something that for me is going to have a huge amount of reward. If I am able to pass the test, I turn in that something we think is negative and ni'mah into something positive. I turn in a threat into an opportunity. That is what our life is about. It's not necessarily what's going to give us, the life is going to deal us, but it is what we do with what we are given. If we are given bala, we have that patience. If we are given ni'mat, how we spend that ni'mah. That is what's important. And that's what's going to affect our soul for an eternity. Not in the hereafter, they're going to say, oh, this person had this much money, this person had that much. Not going to ask any of this. What did you do in terms of your actions? So to summarize tonight's discussion, Imam Hussein alayhi salam, his companions, his followers, were people that truly did not have any fear. To fight against an army of 30,000 people, you have to be fearless. And if we learn anything from Karbala, it is this, that to stop fearing death, stop fearing poverty, stop fearing so many things that are in the hands of God. These are in the hands of God. We trust that to Him. We are responsible for our free will and those things that we have in our own hands and disposal. Inshallah, that we can remedy ourselves and take one more step towards courage and bravery. Please recite salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad wa ajal. The lights, usually because there's a time period that we mourn for Imam Hussein's martyrdom, and we ask ourselves, how can they have killed the son of Rasulullah? How can they have killed the grandson of Rasulullah? Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Sallallahu alayka ya Aba Abdullah. The best way for us to take the traits of Imam Hussein is by loving him, loving the Prophet of Islam. And slowly with this love, we start to become like them. When anybody reads history and they see how can a time period come where the grandson of the Holy Prophet is left alone, nobody came to assist him, only say around 70 people, we become shocked. But then more than this, we ask, okay, if you killed Imam Hussein, then why did you not give water to him? Why did you kill him thirsty? You know, Iraq is a place that is full of rivers. The Furat, the Euphrates, there's different branches. It wasn't hard. Why did you have to put 4,000 soldiers so that Imam Hussein and his family, his daughters, 3, 4-year-old daughters, his 6-month-old, they cannot have water? How much water does a 6-month-old have? This is a reality. Why did they starve Imam Hussein? Why did they kill him in a way that, when you want to kill an animal, excuse me for saying this, Imam Zaman, usually even when they want to kill a sheep, they give it water before they slaughter it. But to the grandson of the Prophet of Islam, they didn't even give him water. He died with thirsty lips. Why didn't you bury Imam Hussein? At least for the respect of Rasulullah, you killed him. You hit so many arrows were upon the body of Hussein ibn Ali. It says that his body was covered like a porcupine. Imam Sajjad says they killed, Imam Rida alayhi salam mentions to Ibn Shabib that they killed him in the way that they killed a sheep. They slaughtered Hussein ibn Ali. Okay, you slaughtered him. You made his beard full of blood, but why didn't you bury him at least? For 3 days and 3 nights, his body was left. And not only that, they came with horses and trampled his body. Why? Was he not the grandson of Rasulullah? Why did you behead him? Why did you separate their heads? Why did you put his head on a spear? Was he not the sign of the grandson of Rasul? Did he not resemble Prophet Muhammad? And from city and city that you would fight over, that I have the head of this person, I have the head of this person. They say that one of the most sad times, even the army of Yazid, they asked, what is one of the saddest times? They said that when we saw these little children, and they would look up and see these heads, and they would chase the head of Imam Hussein. They would chase the head of Hazrat Abbas, chase the head of Ali Akbar. All of these, their brothers, some of them their father. They would chase and look, and from city to city, they're seeing these heads on the spear. This was one of the saddest. But this caravan, from what we have in history, went to Kufa now, the family of Imam Hussein, little daughters of Imam Hussein, the wives of Imam Hussein, goes to Kufa, and from now they're going to Sham. Now they're going to do the utmost disrespect to the head of Hussein ibn Ali. Soon they're going to be bringing this in a bowl, and bringing this head in front of Yazid. Inna lillah, inna ilayhi raji'un. Ya Allah, we ask you, because of the honor of Hussein ibn Ali, never take these tears away from us, from Imam Hussein alayhi salam. Increase our tears for Hussein ibn Ali. Increase our mourning for the grandson of Rasulullah. Because we know that Prophet Muhammad will be happy for us if we cry for his grandson. Ya Allah, give us insight to know how bad of a deed it was to kill the grandson of Hussein. Inshallah. Ya Allah, we have many people that are sick. Cure all those that are sick. Bless the souls of all those that have departed, especially the founder of this masjid. Ya Allah, we ask you to be loyal and fearless and brave and courageous to our Imam, the 12th Imam, Imam Mahdi. May Allah